Today in Riffs, Beards, and Gear, we shoot out a bunch of 5150s. So with the recent release of the 5150 Iconic from EVH, their $900 gateway amplifier, there has been a lot of opinions regarding how this amplifier sounds versus the other popular 5150 amplifiers, the much loved 5150 amplifier line, including the original 1992 PV block letter and the EVH 5153 all-tube 100-watt amplifier. This example right here is an OG 5153 in black with the white chassis. Courtesy of my friends over at Sweetwater. They have basically made this video happen because I didn't have one of these EVH 5150 heads. So thank you to them. More on them in a little bit. But we're going to shoot out and we're going to do a non-scientific comparison with all three of these amplifiers. I'm using an Ernie Ball Music Man Stingray RS. This is my custom tour guitar with one of my prototype signature Fishman bridge pickups in it. This is, typical of something that one would use with one of these amplifiers, something hot, something active, maybe. I'm going to be switching between these three amplifiers using the Air Step right here, and I'm switching via MIDI into a KHE amp selector, so I can easily switch on the fly in real time between all three of these amplifiers with no gap, no nothing, okay? So we're going to primarily be focusing on the red channels on all three of these amplifiers. That we're not going to compare clean channels or anything like that. And I will note that these amps are stock, and I will also note that the EVH 5153 does not have a resonance control. There's only a presence control. Now I want to also note, before we get started, that all three of these amplifiers after the KHE amp selector are hitting a universal audio aux box, load box, impulse, speaker loader box for a couple of different reasons. This is for control, really. I use this all of the time. I'm using a vintage 30 412 cab, and this also ensures that if I was using a real cab, I couldn't mic for one amplifier over the other. This is just basically making everything a fair fight cabinet-wise, okay? So on the Air Step, at any time on your screen, you can know which amplifier we are hearing. The first foot switch is the control. This is the PV 5150 block letter. The second switch is the EVH 5153. And then the third foot switch is going to be the 5150 Iconic. I will note these on the screen. It's going to be very easy to tell which amplifier you were hearing, but just keep that in mind before we get started, which is right now. This is the PV 5150 block letter with the gain at about 3. All these amplifiers are at 3. This is what this sounds like. Now, I am currently not boosting these amplifiers. I do have a Maxon OD808 ready to go. However, right now, we're not going to be playing with some boosts. That is the block letter. So I'm going to switch over to the EVH 5153. Now I also have the EVH EQ set to mid-range at noon, cutting a little bit of low end, and the low end's about 11 o'clock, and the treble is at about 1 o'clock, same with the PV. So these are basically identical EQ settings. Now let's compare the block letter to the 5150 Iconic. The Iconic, currently, as I have it dialed in, is sitting kind of between the Blockletter and the 5153. So it seems to be a little bit brighter as well. Let's go ahead and dial this in just a little bit. The 5150 Iconic definitely has that modern EVH sound, that EQ curve, which I do like. However, the Blockletter is really, really nice as well. I mean, this is a 30-year-old amp. So, be that as it may, sounds pretty good. Let's go between the 5150 Iconic and the EVH 5153. These sound pretty close to each other. Now, I've rolled off a lot of presents on the 5150 Iconic. They're definitely within the ballpark of each other. All of these are. Okay, so now I'm going to introduce a Maxon OD808 boost. Let's just see what happens. I still have the gain at about 3 on all of these amplifiers, which is typically where I have it. When I'm boosting, depending on what I'm doing, but let's just see what the Maxon sounds like, starting with the Blockletter. They sound pretty good. I'm super gained out. There's no noise gate going on, so there's a lot of noise and hiss going on between all these amplifiers. However, they would all do just fine in a mix, honestly. Now, as far as feel goes, my choice would honestly probably be the 5153 or the Blockletter. Now, the Blockletter is the original, and it's a lot of fun, and it has that oomph, but I feel like I could dial in just about any of these amplifiers to sound like the other, if I'm honest. Now, the 5150 Iconic seems to be much, much brighter. And the OG Blockletter seems to be less upper mid-range, E, but I like it. I like it a lot. So I'm going to turn the boost back off. And I'm going to revisit these, and I'm going to put all of the EQ at noon on all of these amplifiers. Now this doesn't mean anything because these pot values on all these amplifiers are wildly different. This literally doesn't mean anything, but for fun, let's put all of these EQ at noon. Okay, so the upper mid thing, the block letter and the EVH 5153 have in spades, right? At noon on these settings. The 5150, I think I could bring the presence back up to about noon, and it would probably be right there. And there you have it. What have I learned? What have we learned? Well, I mean, honestly, yes, there are obvious differences between all three of these amplifiers. Is the 5150 Iconic as good as the original PV block letter or the 5153? That's up to you to decide. However, my point in making this video is to show you that the 5150 Iconic is, it can hang with the other amps. I'm sorry, it really does. The Iconic is designed by James Brown, as is this block letter. Both of these have the same father or mother, I guess, as Eddie Van Halen would be their father technically. But, you know, the 5153 here on the bottom hangs just fine with all the rest of them anyway. So, yeah, I don't know. You decide which one you like. I am just here providing sound samples and trying to do the Lord's work with guitar amplifiers. I will link down below in the description if you would like either one of the 5150 Iconic or the EVH 5153. Feel free to use my affiliate link to go over to Sweetwater and shop for an amplifier of your own. Shout out to Sweetwater for sponsoring this video. And with that, you've been wonderful. I've been Fluff. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. If you liked the video you just watched, please consider subscribing. And if you want to further support me and what I do, consider using some of the affiliate links down below in the description of this video. Go on over to Sweetwater, buy yourself something, and help me out at the same time. It's a win-win for both of us.